The air hung heavy in the courtyard, thick with fear and anticipation. Hundreds of eyes were fixed on the lone figure kneeling before the Iron Throne. Lord Rowan, once a proud and powerful lord, was now a broken man. His voice, a dry rasp, echoed across the silent crowd as he spoke of his treachery. He admitted to plotting against the crown. He confessed to conspiring with the enemies of the realm. Each word was a hammer blow, shattering the illusion of peace that had settled upon the Seven Kingdoms. Whispers erupted from the onlookers, swirling like a rising storm. The accusations were unthinkable, treasonous. Many refused to believe their ears. Lord Rowan, a trusted advisor, a loyal bannerman, a pillar of the realm, a traitor? It seemed impossible. Yet there he was, his own words damning him. He named his co-conspirators, each name a fresh wound on the heart of the realm. King Aegon III sat upon the Iron Throne, his young face a mask of cold fury. The crown sat heavy on his brow, a symbol of the weight of responsibility thrust upon him too soon. He had not yet reached his 16th name day, yet he had already witnessed more tragedy and betrayal than most men see in a lifetime. The whispers of the crowd faded away as he rose from his throne, his eyes burning with a cold fire. "You dare!" the king spat, his voice echoing with the fury of a dragon. "You dare betray the trust I placed in you? You dare bring war and bloodshed to my kingdom?" His voice, though young, held the ring of steel. It commanded attention, it demanded respect, and it promised retribution. Aegon's hand slammed down on the armrest of the Iron Throne. The sound was sharp, final, like the fall of an executioner's axe. The silence that followed was absolute. Then the king spoke again, his voice low and dangerous. "You will pay for your crimes, Lord Rowan," he said, each word heavy with menace. Prince Viserys, the king's hand and protector, stood at his nephew's side. His face, etched with years of wisdom and worry, remained impassive. But beneath the calm exterior, a storm of doubt raged within him. He had known Lord Rowan for many years. He had seen the man's loyalty firsthand. Could he have been so easily swayed to treason? Viserys listened intently to Rowan's confession, searching for any sign of falsehood, any flicker of doubt in the man's eyes. He found none. Rowan's confession was delivered with the conviction of a man resigned to his fate. Yet something did not ring true. The scope of the alleged conspiracy, the audacity of the plan, it all seemed too convenient. What if this confession was not what it seemed? What if Lord Rowan was a pawn, sacrificed to protect a far more dangerous enemy? Acting on his suspicions, Viserys launched a covert investigation. He dispatched his most trusted agents to gather information. His efforts bore fruit sooner than he expected. A lesser lord named Graceford cracked under interrogation. He revealed Rowan's confession was a fabrication to protect his family. Graceford's confession shattered the fragile facade of truth. He spoke of secret meetings and threats whispered in the shadows. Armed with this new information, Viserys moved swiftly. He orchestrated raids on the estates of those implicated by Graceford. The raids yielded a treasure trove of incriminating evidence. The trials that followed were a spectacle of justice and retribution. The evidence presented against the accused was overwhelming. One by one, they crumbled under the weight of their own lies. Some confessed, hoping for leniency. Others maintained their innocence, their pleas ringing hollow in the face of the overwhelming proof. King Aegon, his youthful face hardened by betrayal, presided over the trials with a cold detachment. He had learned a bitter lesson about trust, and he was determined to see justice served no matter the cost. The trials were held in the Great Hall of the Red Keep, a grand and imposing chamber that had witnessed countless ceremonies, feasts, and pronouncements over the centuries. Now, its high vaulted ceilings echoed with the pronouncements of guilt and the pleas for mercy. The atmosphere was thick with tension, the air heavy with the scent of fear and anticipation. The accused, stripped of their titles and finery, were brought before the Iron Throne in chains. They were a motley collection of lords and ladies, knights and courtiers, all united by their betrayal. Justice, swift and merciless, was meted out. Those found guilty of treason faced the headsman's axe, their blood staining the cobblestones of the Red Keep. Their lands and titles were stripped from them, their families scattered to the winds. The executions were a grim spectacle, a stark reminder of the price of betrayal. But even as the headsman's axe claimed the lives of the guilty, a sense of unease lingered in the air. The executions were carried out in the square before the Red Keep, witnessed by a silent crowd. The condemned were brought forth one by one, their heads held high, their faces pale but resolute. They met their end with stoic courage, their final words a mix of defiance and regret. The crowd watched in morbid fascination, their silence broken only by the occasional gasp or sob. The conspiracy had been crushed, but at what cost? The realm was wounded, its trust shattered. In the aftermath of the trials, a pall of suspicion settled over King's Landing. The king, once trusting and optimistic, became withdrawn and wary. He surrounded himself with guards, his eyes constantly scanning the faces of those around him, searching for any hint of treachery. The court, once a place of intrigue and ambition, became a viper's nest of suspicion and paranoia. Friends became rivals, allies turned into enemies, and no one dared to speak their mind for fear of being branded a traitor. The walls of the Red Keep, once a symbol of strength and security, now seemed to press in on its inhabitants, suffocating them with their silent accusations. Whispers followed Aegon through the halls, whispers of the conspiracy, of the traitors who had escaped justice. He could not escape the feeling that he was being watched, that danger lurked around every corner. Viserys too was changed. He had always been a cautious man, but now he was haunted by the knowledge that even the most trusted advisors could harbor dark secrets. He redoubled his efforts to protect the king, but he knew that true safety was an illusion. The conspiracy had shaken him to his core, and he could not shake the feeling that there was more to the story than met the eye. He often found himself staring out over the sprawling city of King's Landing from his chambers in the Red Keep. The city, once a source of pride and wonder, now seemed to him a tangled web of secrets and lies. He had the nagging suspicion that the true mastermind behind the plot was still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike again. His suspicion centered on a shadowy figure known only as Mushroom. Mushroom was a dwarf, a jester in the court of King Viserys I, Aegon's grandfather. He was a grotesque figure, with a bulbous head and a twisted body, but he was said to possess a sharp wit and an even sharper tongue. He had a knack for being in the right place at the right time, overhearing conversations he shouldn't have, and knowing things he had no business knowing. Some dismissed Mushroom as a fool, a harmless entertainer who amused himself by spreading gossip and rumors. But Viserys had learned long ago that fools often possessed a certain kind of wisdom. They saw the world differently, unburdened by the constraints of logic and reason. And sometimes, they saw things that others missed. Viserys suspected that Mushroom knew more about the conspiracy than he was letting on. The fall of Lord Rowan had sent shockwaves through the Seven Kingdoms, but the aftershocks continued to ripple outward, threatening the fragile peace. The trials and executions brought closure, but also left a void, a sense of unease. The king was safe for now, but for how long? And what of the mastermind behind it all? Was he content to lurk in the shadows, or plotting his next move? These were the questions that haunted Viserys, questions that whispered on the wind. The Red Keep, once a symbol of power, now stood as a reminder of the fragility of peace. The events of the past months left an indelible mark, a wound that would take generations to heal. The wounds of betrayal cut deep, and the scars would forever remind of the price of power. The Game of Thrones was dangerous and played for the highest stakes. As Viserys well knew, there were no true victors, only survivors.